Hey everybody, it's me, Geronimo, and I'm your host, G. And today I have a very special guest, Christina. She is an amazing friend of mine. We've done photography. She is an amazing artist, and today she's here to tell you and to share this story with me of how amazing this journey of photography has been for her and what is to come for her and her story. So today we're gonna dive in and we're gonna start with memory lane because we want to hear where this whole started.
Thanks for having me, G. It's such a pleasure to talk to you today and see you. I am a professional photographer now. I've had my business for almost 10 years, but the early days started when I grew up and learned on a film camera. So I actually learned how to develop black and white film in a dark room and was learning kind of the techniques and the study of light when I was much younger in high school, and always thought it was going to be a passion. But as I became older and was working in the workforce, just really realized that it was something I wanted to pursue as a full-time career.
Okay. And out of the bloom, this is a random question because
Okay.
I started with film photography too.
Yeah.
Which film camera did you start with, and which film did you start using? What millimeter?
Okay, 35 millimeter, and
Okay.
it was a really kind of basic camera called a Canon PowerShot 200.
No way.
Yeah, is that the one you started on?
I started with a Canon. It wasn't a power shot,
Okay.
but it was a Canon.
It was a film PowerShot. So you could set it on automatic and just take pictures, but I had an actual art teacher from a local art school. I was that interested in photography that I actually took classes at a different art school than my high school to learn photography, and my dad gave me that camera, and my teacher made me learn everything on manual, and it started there.
Well, I mean, a teacher is not a teacher if they're not making you hustle for it. I mean,
Definitely.
you're not gonna become a photographer out of doing everything automatic. You need to learn the settings and everything for the camera. But tell me, okay, so you're a photographer now, but how was that process pre-photography? What were you doing after school? What was that journey before this whole photography journey started?
For sure. I'm a very purpose-driven person, and so I went to college in Florida, and I knew I loved the arts, but at the time it was as social media was kind of coming into existence, and you really didn't actually have that much perspective as what you could do with photography. It was kind of either photojournalism or wedding photography. And at the time, I really didn't think it was going to be a career. So I studied communication in college and graphic design, and ended up working actually in interior design just by knowing someone who was starting a bunch of companies, and really came back to the fact that photography was something I loved. I did it all throughout college and took classes, but it wasn't until after school that it really clicked that it was something that I wanted to go for and try as my own career. I think I saw my dad build his business, and he's somewhat of an entrepreneur as well. He has a construction company that he started and founded with his best friend from college that he was
So you know how to build
working on.
businesses up. So you had a bit of an idea.
Well, I didn't personally know, but my dad
Knew.
set this example of
For
going
you.
after his dreams in a way.
So it kind
And
of lead you to that idea of like, I want to pursue what I want. I want to pursue my goals and my dreams. And then that's how you started doing that.
yeah, and I also worked for an amazing entrepreneur in Palm Beach and West Palm Beach, Florida, who is also starting a bunch of businesses. And I actually helped her cultivate and start all her ideas. And so it was a really exciting time after college. But after a few years in the workforce, I really knew that I wanted to build my own dreams and try this thing of becoming a professional photographer.
And how was that? Okay. So how was that switch from, being successful in Palm Beach, working, basically utilizing your degree?
A little bit, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So how is that switch of doing that, really enjoying it, perhaps, I suppose, and switching to photography? How is that switch for you? Because for some people it's like, yeah, I may not. Some people do it, some people don't. Some people try and some people fail. But for you, you try, you took the shot, you took the chance, and here you are. Look at you. You're traveling all over the place. You're doing amazing photography. Your work is amazing. So how was that switch for you? Was there any difficulty in the process?
It definitely was a long evolution. It definitely wasn't something that just switched a flip and I became like this professional photographer that was traveling and doing all these things right away. It was an evolution. I actually, for the interior designer that I used to work for, I did a lot of photography for her. And actually, throughout my whole entire career, I've done multiple different types of photography and dabbled in interiors and music photography and fashion photography and wedding photography and underwater photography and all these different things, which was really gave me this broader perspective of what I enjoyed and also helped me to learn lighting situations in any type of situation. So I was doing a lot of social Instagram photography for my boss right out of college, and then interior photography and lifestyle photography. And then from there, people knew that I was interested in it. And when I started my business, I basically knew that I wasn't going to have this influx of clients right away. So before I started my company, I saved up a bit of money and knew that it was going to be an adjustment period between not working for her as much and trying to start my own business. So it was definitely like a process. You hear a lot of entrepreneurs say nowadays, just kind of take the plunge and quit everything and dive in. For me,
Yeah.
it was more a bit of an evolution. I still was
A
working
transition,
for
a more
her.
smoother transition.
Exactly. I was working for her a few days a week and then working on my business a few days a week. And then it did get to the point where I was working 24/7 and I was like, okay, something has to give and I need to dive into this full time. So I always encourage people to definitely take the leap and believe in yourself to do so, but have a somewhat of a rough plan in place and know that it may take some time and persistence and patience.
Definitely don't take it actually and then be quit everything and jump into your dreams, because I mean, life is life. We all have to pay bills, we all have to pay for our food and so forth and so on. So I agree with you on that. It's much as smart what you did, because I feel bad. A lot of people, I mean, not a lot of people, but I know people that have tried or jumped into their passion and they fail because they don't have a plan or a backup plan, or they really hope, and which I admire. I admire the fact that they take that leap of faith of quitting absolutely everything and going for it. There's a few that I know that worked. There's a few that I know that has not worked so much. So I agree with you. It's just better to have a plan it out, figure it out, and then have a middle ground between what is keeping you or sustaining you while you build your own business, because it's a whole process. So that's something to admire. And I noticed that you mentor people. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, at this point, I'm like, should I be mentored by you too? I want to learn some film photography too. I haven't done that in years.
Yeah, of course. I will say, just to touch on what you were saying about the transition.
Absolutely.
Although I had a transition period, there was no plan B for me. And I think it's one reason why became like
Who you are.
who I am today, is I really dove into photography thinking like, this is it. I finally found my passion, because I knew I was such a passionate and purpose-driven person, and still am, that I was trying to find like, what is it that I'm going to divert all my attention to and build my own dream. And so when I landed on becoming a professional photographer and was just going for it, I had a bit of tunnel vision to just do it. And yeah, I now mentor people pretty much one-on-one. A lot of people have encouraged me to do courses or things like that, but to me, one-on-one mentorship really resonates the most, because I'm able to sit with people and actually give them specific guidance based on their history and their experience. And also, what I love about my mentorship sessions with other photographers that are up and coming is I pour into them a step-by-step process as to how to achieve their dreams, and it's very individualized. So advice I may give you would be different than someone else based on where you are. And so I think to give back, I was doing that already naturally, and then it just became a service that I offer as of about a year and a half ago, because I love helping people. Yeah. And so many people have poured into me over my career. I've learned from incredible photographers that have made me who I am today. And so to do that for other people and offer it as an actual, business form was at first interesting. It was like an interesting concept for me, because I was like, I just would tell everybody everything, but obviously our time is valuable. Yeah. And again, having that individual approach with each person, I think, is really invaluable, where if you buy a course online, you might take some information from it, but you don't actually have someone there telling you what they would recommend as your next step.
No, it's funny because I do recall one time we were together. We were having a conversation, I think, in Laguna Beach, and then you were giving advice to one of our friends, and then I love how you recalled and you make the call to action of like it's important to value your time. You've always had that within you that you're sharp on it. You're like, look, I have so much to give, but at the same time, I have to utilize it. So when we were having that conversation, I'm like, oh shit, you have a good head over your shoulder because a lot of people are like either one, they have the knowledge and they just give it away because they feel that is what is right. But at the same time, people really need to understand, mainly with our careers, because I bet this has happened to you where you have your degrees, your experience, your years of experience, your portfolio to back you up, and then you're trying to pitch someone on the deal, whatever, to close a new client, and then they find your prices a little bit too high. But I love the fact that you recognize that because people need to start understanding that. We go to school for this. We pay for all these degrees, which are not cheap, to be able to help them. So the fact that you have that professional and clear understanding of how important it is to value yourself, your art, your time, and your knowledge is something that we as professional artists, we have to kind of teach our clients a little bit about that, or future clients, because some people are like, they don't understand. But it's just like being a doctor. They go to school and surgeries are not cheap for a reason, because all these people have those experiences. They're going to be opening you up, you know? So I admire that of you.
Thank
But
you.
touching back a little bit of the photography that you do, you mentioned underwater photography.
Yes.
I've done that in Costa Rica. For me, the first time was nerve-wracking because you're going out there in an environment that it's not your daily basis. Like you're not in the water every single day. So how was that process for you to getting comfortable, one, going out there with this big apparatus where you put your camera in there, the housing?
Yeah.
How is that transition for you to be, okay, I have to be aware of animals, currents, waves, my gear, and on top of that, lighting and getting the shot? How was that process for you? Because for me, I'll dive into it a little bit later, but it's crazy. I want to hear yours first.
That's amazing that you touched on that, because so many people ask me, what's your favorite type of photography? You've done so much. And I always come back to shooting in the ocean as being one of my favorite things, actually.
I nailed it right in the head, I guess.
Yeah, even though I don't do a lot of it, because what I love about shooting in the ocean is there's so much unpredictability, and the water and the light together is so beautiful, and so many aspects of studio photography, even wedding photography, fashion photography are controlled, and you really know like what lighting situation you're exactly going into, how to set up the shot, things like that. But with the ocean, it's this really organic process where you're out there and you don't know what to expect.
You're in the go. You have to pull it together on the go.
And every time I do bring out my housing, it's a whole big apparatus. So many people like will start talking to me about it, and it's a fun conversation starter. But I actually was always a lover of the ocean. So I grew up in Virginia in a small town and knew I wanted to live by the beach. I just was always drawn to the ocean, had pictures of the ocean all over my bedroom and binders when I was really little. And so it was always a dream to get underwater housing and shoot in the ocean. And Chris Picard, who's a very amazing adventure photographer, he actually, I want to say over 10 years ago, before workshops were a thing, he had posted that he was doing an underwater photography workshop in San Luis Obispo, California. And I hit up a close guy friend of mine who I knew followed his work and liked him too, and was like, hey, look at this workshop that Chris is doing. He'd never done a workshop before, and now
so it was a first time thing.
It was first time thing. And we ended up going. It was crazy. It was me and a bunch of boys, but par for the course sometimes. I love it. But I got to learn from Chris a bit about underwater photography. Then I bought my first housing after that. And yeah, shooting in the ocean, what's great about you can own different underwater housings for your camera, but what's great about mine is you can change the settings while you're in the water, which is really nice if the light starts changing. But
you have still some leverage, and you're not relying on like, oh, oops, hold on. Actually, wait, I have to get out there, switch the settings, and then go back in.
Exactly.
So that's actually pretty good.
But I've had experiences too where you have to really get your housing dialed in, and I'm not proud of it. And for years I was fine, but there was one time where I was a little lazy, and then some water came in, and
oh no,
you know. So
did you save the camera, or the camera was a complete goner?
The camera was a goner one time, and then actually it happened again recently when I was in Kauai, and it was fine because I noticed right away. But you always test it before you dunk it in the water just to make sure. But yeah, I love shooting in the ocean. It's really fun, and I love to swim. And you do have to be very aware, but it's a really beautiful process because you don't know exactly what you're gonna get, and so it's kind of like Christmas morning in a sense of getting film back too. You just go back to your computer and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, or you see it on the back of your camera, and it's a really fun, exciting process. And being someone who loves the outdoors, it's just like magical every
It's
time I'm in
rewarding.
the ocean. Yeah.
Speaking of the ocean, I did it in Costa Rica, but one thing that comes to mind, again, random question, stupid question, funny question too, is that at least when I was shooting in Costa Rica, I was doing surf photography. That's what I would do. So I would go out with housing. It wasn't something crazy. It was like a just small rugged to be able to get in the waves because I didn't want to have something big. But one time happened, it was rainy season. I don't know if you know this, but in Costa Rica, half of the year is summer and the other half is complete winter.
Rainy season. Okay.
And it's rainy season is a sugar coated way to call it because the rain and the season reason is strong. It's gnarly. So I was out there, and then we went out in the morning. It was sunny, and then the water was clear. I was not expecting that to happen. And then while we're shooting, everything is going well. All of a sudden, the photographers, not the photographers, the surfers are like, "Hey, careful, look that way." And I looked, and there's these two tiny googly eyes popping out of the water, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, that looks like an animal. And they're like, yeah, it's an alligator. I had no clue that the alligators, well, they live in the rivers in Costa Rica, but during the rainy season, they get washed out into the ocean because the rivers get overflowed. So that was another experience I was like, when do you think you're gonna come across an alligator in the middle of the ocean? It's salt water. You don't put those things together. So worst case scenario, it was funny because my surfer friends, they gave me a board, so they're like, okay, get your legs out, start paddling softer, and try to catch a wave and get out. Okay. So I did that. Everything was fine.
Good.
But it was an early experience to be up close to a wild animal that you can't really predict, and you're not sure what they're looking for. So for you, have you had any close encounters or anything like that? I mean, it's California. There's sharks here.
Yes.
I'd be more scared to be in the water here than there.
In where?
In Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would rather be in Costa Rica in the water anytime. I'm like, you don't have to ask me, I'll go. Here in the ocean, I'm like, yeah, there's sharks out here. Should I?
Yeah, I haven't had any close encounters with any animals, but I guess I'm a little more fearless than I would realize at first. I'm not particularly scared of sharks. I have my scuba certification. I haven't gone scuba diving in a really long time, but on my first dive, I saw a shark. And actually, when you're under the water and you're on their level to some degree, it's less intimidating than I think if I was a surfer and like seeing them underneath me. But I love seeing fish and ocean life, so I don't have any crazy stories like your alligator sighting. But
I was really curious too. I don't know. I was expecting maybe like, oh, I've seen a shark. I was like, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
But
I've seen sharks. I mean, smaller ones. Nothing big.
Too crazy.
I want to go shark diving and swimming. I really want to go. I mean, in a way that they're not just baiting the sharks with like chum or whatnot.
Anything
but
of that.
I would love
to
do that.
In an actual environment where they're there, you just jump in the water and then you have the chance to film them. It's not something that you're like, attracting them. It's more natural, I think, that you want to experience it.
I think so. I mean, that seems maybe a little more scary and less controlled, where if you do go with a group, obviously there are professional divers there that know the sharks and work with them, but it's something I'd love to do that I haven't done yet. So we'll see.
We'll see. Maybe we go
shark diving
and take some photos.
Let's do it.
I mean, let's put it on the books. Okay. We should plan that.
We should handshake.
Right, we'll handshake on that. We're shark diving. We have Javier too, which we can go with him too. We gotta get Javier. He's behind camera right now, but we'll give him a shout out, an interview of his own. I would love to hear his story too. But let's dive into that word of film. Why do you continue doing film? It's the 21st century. Like, a lot of people are like, they want their photos right here, right now as fast as they can. So with film, you still have to develop them, which is a beautiful art of its own,
For
which
sure.
it gives richness to it. It's a different look. So what is that continue to inspire you to keep investing on film and developing it and giving it to your clients? Because that's the main thing, also one of the main things that would make you different from anybody else that do any other photography, because you continue to do film and digital.
Definitely.
But why do you continue doing film
I
along
think,
digital?
yeah, thank you for asking. I think it's become more common now that people do both, but a few years ago, there weren't as many, and so clients actually would specifically seek me out for that purpose.
For film.
The fact that I do both film and digital and also take Polaroids, so they're, depending on what type of photography shoot it is, but in weddings in particular, that became something that was very popular with clients. The thing about film is it's so raw and beautiful in its own way that yes, there are presets and filters where you can make digital photos look so close to it. And I have had certain photographer friends of mine be like, why do you still shoot film? Like, you can edit
I admire
something.
that. Like I would love to do it, but again, like my clients are like, I need my photos right now, so I don't get that pleasure what you do get, to be able to take the time and just give them something that it's a genuine piece of art.
Yes.
Like, not a lot of people still do. So, for example, you mentioned something about Super 8 on your page.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So one of my really close photography friends who also does videography, Bailey, was one of the first people to get me behind a Super 8 camera, and I was hooked because it's a film medium through video.
Yes.
And the thing about developing 35 or medium format film that isn't video is there are actually a lot of places now, developing places around California, that will get it back to you in 24 hours. So you can have that instant gratification if you want. I particularly right now have been sending my film actually overseas to Spain to get developed, because there's this amazing lab there that I love, but I cycle through different labs and kind of switch around just to try different places. But Super 8 is really exciting. It's a vintage film camera from like the 60s or 70s.
I've never seen one in person. I would
Wait,
love to.
really? Oh
No,
my
I've never
gosh.
seen one in
Yeah,
person. That's why when you posted, you had that on the website. I was being nosy, by the way. I was going through your website and I saw Super 8 and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
You have a Super 8 camera, I'm guessing.
I do. It's actually broken right now, but I'm going to get another one.
How is that process of owning such a piece of history? How is that?
It's very nostalgic. I think if you talk to anyone who's lived some life, they'll tell you cycles come and go, but everything comes back around. And it's true. Like, bell bottoms were in style at one point, then they weren't, and then they are. So
Exactly.
I think so I think that a lot of people are desiring film. They love the look of it. They really like the intentionality of it, because you have to be very intentional when you shoot film. You can't fire hundreds of photos.
Just a burst, yeah.
Exactly, because there's only a certain amount. Same with a Super 8 roll of video. You have, I want to say, 3 minutes typically on a roll of Super 8 film that you can capture, and then you have to switch it out. So yeah, the Super 8 footage is really fun. It's just a unique way to capture video that's different and has a very unique style to it that people recognize and has really come around as a trend. And again, you can edit video with the Super 8 feel and put a preset on it, but there's nothing like actual film. And to my point a minute ago, it really, as an artist, it really causes you to slow down and be very intentional about the work that you're capturing. So it's one reason why I still shoot film and dabble a little bit into Super 8 now too.
And how is that for your clients? Like, to have not only an amazing photographer and videographer like yourself, but to have that artist that counts with, one, the knowledge, two, the experience, and three, the equipment to do that. How do they feel after you deliver those pieces of art made out of your film photography camera or your Super 8? What is their opinion? Where's their head at after you deliver those pieces of art? What did they say to you?
Generally, they're super excited to see everything come to life. And because editing does take some time on the digital side, there is a great way to turn things around really quickly if it's needed for an event. But a lot of times you're waiting a few weeks. sometimes months if it's a wedding. It depends what it is, where clients just get that excited feeling to relive the day. And so much has happened in a week or two or a month or two that when they look back at everything, generally speaking and hopefully speaking, they're really excited. And I always tell people to make a night out of looking at your photos, or an afternoon or an hour, because it really, everything's so fast with the digital age that we are living in, that you can just scroll through it and move on to the next thing. But that's one reason too why print is so important. I'm actually in the process of writing a coffee table book, which will have some of my poetry and writings and also photos as well, because I think there's nothing like having something in your hands in this digital age that can be an heirloom piece that can live in your home, or something that you can really see, touch, and feel, as opposed to just looking at photos or a video on your phone or on your computer or online.
Absolutely. Well, once that book is ready, I definitely want a copy. Let me know where I can get one, because I want to have one here for the studio. I would love to have a copy of that.
Oh, of course.
But circling back to film, have you ever, and I bet you've at least had one, have you ever, while you're shooting, or even if it's just on your own that you're doing photography, have you ever lost one roll because you didn't put it right, or you exposed it too light? Have anything like that to you happen, where, or worst case scenario, you've shot, you have your photos, but all of a sudden something happened to the film, maybe go through the airport and security, those X-ray machines, they burnt through those films. Has anything like that happened to you? Because it happened to me once, and it was not fun. It was a nice concert that I had photos of, and then I was traveling back, and then they put them through the X-ray. I had no idea that that's how I learned that the X-ray burnt the film.
No way, you didn't know. Oh my gosh.
I had no clue.
That's okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure, like TSH or security, whatever, at the airport. They're like, yeah, put your stuff through. I put it through. I put the film there. And when I went to develop it, the lab is like, hey, yeah, we have bad news. Your film roll is a goner. I was like, how come? They're like, do you travel? I'm like, yeah. They asked me for the X-ray. I'm like, yep, I didn't took it out. They're like, yeah, that's what happened. It just got burnt. So anything like that has happened to you?
I've actually unintentionally rolled some film through a long time ago, and it's been fine. And I've had some friends that have called me at times freaking out, like, oh, I just put it through the X-ray machine. Generally, you're fine. So I'm actually really surprised
that happened,
because they say I don't do it. I obviously take it out every time for caution, but anything ISO 800 speed or higher, it will get affected. So maybe that was your film. But generally, people shoot on ISO like 400 is usually a good mark point. So you should be okay. But yeah, you always run the risk with film of something going wrong. I have had Super 8 rolls where it's just been blank for part of the film before. So I educate all my clients about film, and also it's one reason why I'm always shooting digital alongside.
Just to be safe.
Yes, just to be safe, for that security purpose, so that I know that we have it. And even with digital cameras, sometimes the memory card corrupts and things like that.
Yes, so that has happened to me before too. So I agree with you on that. The SD is not a fun one.
Yeah, so I'm dual recording on all memory cards and shooting film along with digital, and making sure, of course, things happen, but they're pretty rare if you have a good process in place.
What has been your best, and this is just to switch gears a little bit, what has been your best experience shooting a wedding? Something that till today you still recall, and you go back in time and you say, this is the best wedding I've shot because X or Y memory I had.
I think it's always really exciting when it's someone you know to some degree, because you can be there with their families and know a bit of their story. And I've had people that I met 10, 12 years ago that I haven't even talked to, that have come back and said, hey, I've been following your career. Like, I'd love for you to shoot my wedding. And I've had multiple other photographers ask me, which is always such an honor. I don't know that there's one wedding in particular that stands out among all of them, but I definitely, listening to the speeches and hearing that connection, whether I know them or not, is always an emotional time for me, because it's really rare that you have all the people you love in one room and get to hear kind of bits and pieces about their life. So I always love hearing the speeches on a wedding day. And I would say also, I've been really designed my career around only taking a certain amount of weddings a year so that I really am intentional with each couple of getting to know them and being a part of the process and being there as, you know, another friend on the wedding day, not this like stranger coming in, which has really helped ease their nerves and everything like that, and helped me create a much like deeper connection with them, where if I was doing weddings, multiple weddings a weekend or all the time, it would maybe like burn me out a little faster, because I've seen that happen to other people. So I've loved the way that I've done it, where I've taken a certain amount every year and just really got to know each couple personally and form that relationship has been really special. So all the weddings are special. Every time someone asks me to shoot a wedding, I feel such a genuine care and honor for that ask,
Opportunity,
because it really is special. It's all your friends and family in one room that will probably never all be together at that
it's a unique
collection.
situation that only happens once.
Exactly. I take it on as a very like huge honor and responsibility, and every wedding is special and unique. I think a lot of people know me loving the outdoors, so I've got to go some really cool destinations like Jamaica and Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and Hawaii, and all these beautiful places to capture weddings. That has also just made it so much richer, because we're able to experience the beauty of a place with a couple's friends and family. So
very nice. Okay, so touching back on that, on weddings and how special they are, this is something funny that I had to deal with in a wedding in Texas. Just like you, they flew me out and do all that stuff, and I want to know how you handle this. They asked me for video and photo package, so it was both. So it was the first wedding I was doing here in the States when I first arrived back in 2019. It was a really nice wedding. Like I've been to Texas, but that place was marvelous. It was a beautiful country club. The venue was set up in such a beautiful way with the view of the golf course. It was beautiful, right? But before everything happened and we were putting everything together, they asked me for that. I was like, okay, how do I do this? Because I photograph weddings.
Yes.
And I videograph weddings on the side, separate, not together. That was my first one doing it together. So I ended up hiring someone to help me with the photos, and I will do the video.
Yes.
But how is it for you? Do you have a team that supports you, or are you that one man or one woman person that is like two cameras, one on the right, one on the left? It's like, you know what? I'm shooting photos here, and I'm rolling camera right here. How is that for you?
I definitely couldn't do what I do without a team, especially on wedding days. That's amazing that you did photo video with just you and one other person, because I feel like that would require.
Oh, I was stressing. Believe me, the few little gray hairs I have, I bet I got them from that wedding. I'm sure.
I'm sure. That's so funny. And congrats on doing that, because I think I actually have mentored a photographer who was doing everything very solo, and I was trying to explain to her, you don't know what you're missing without hiring people. So yeah, it depends on the wedding, the budget, the location, all different things, but I will always have another person with me as a second photographer, sometimes a third and fourth assistant to help me load film. Or a lot of times on a wedding day, you have to divide and conquer. Someone's with the couple,
absolutely,
and someone else is at cocktail hour, or guys getting ready, girls getting ready, that type of situation.
You can't split yourself into atoms and be
everywhere
in 4 places at the same time. Unless you're running and hustling through that, which to me was too crazy. I learned my lesson. I wish I would have had your advice back then, because that would have saved me, one, a lot of gray hairs, a lot of stress, and a lot of time. But have you ever, like, how do you come up to that conclusion of, I do need a team, I can't do this solo?
Yeah, so one of my first or earlier weddings, I'd been working with a lot of brand photography, and it was a model getting married, and she was getting married at this fabulous museum, and I knew the property. It was in Palm Beach, Florida, and the Flagler Museum, actually, if anybody knows the Flagler, it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places to shoot a wedding, and I knew that it was going to be very spread out, and so I actually had a team, I want to say, of at least 4 people. Not everyone stayed the whole time, but I had extra hands during the ceremony or during different parts of the day. And I just ate the cost because I was starting out, but I knew that I wanted to pour into this wedding, and any wedding, it wasn't just theirs, and really do it right, because the property was so spread out. So Yeah, I think having another vantage point, another perspective on a wedding day, and also there are key moments where if something does malfunction right with your
Yes.
camera, God forbid, it's very
That's the last thing
rare.
you wanted to have
But
happening.
it's also, my team has helped me because there's been once or twice where like a flash hasn't fired at a really important moment, or maybe someone stood in my way all of a sudden or something. So to have a team that you trust that works with you is so imperative. And I got really lucky with building my business in Florida. There was a whole group of Florida photographers that I became connected with, and we actually all sort of started working for each other. And so, and we all became really good friends. And so a couple people that stand out in my mind, I've got to travel all over the world with. I'm going to Bali with one of my best friends this weekend, who's also an
Very
amazing
nice.
photographer, and it's her client, and I'm helping her, and we'll switch off kind of helping each other on wedding days. And it's just so important to have multiple hands when you have such an important situation. But even in fashion or other things like architecture photography, like having other people with you, as I'm sure you know, on
Yes.
set is really helpful. And
Yes,
it has to be the
absolutely.
right people, though, not just anybody.
Oh yeah, no. It I agree with you on that. Because last commercial I did that happened to me. I had a BTS photographer, and I mean it's this is those situations that when people are not used to it, they kind of get sidetracked, and then they get in their head, and they're admiring everything, right? And it happened with my BTS photographer where we got to set. We One, it was in Van Nuys airport, so we had access to the airport. We're in the taxiway on the runway, not the runway, the taxiway. We're getting ready to shoot. You have private jets, you have exotic cars,
Yeah.
you have the models which are looking fine and everything. So my BTS photographer was like all over the place, like just like amazed, right? But at the same time, I'm like you're my BTS photographer. Like I need you to get focused and like start snapping away because like that's what you're here for. So I agree. The team, it has to be a chemistry. It has to be people that not necessarily but that they have the experience to be there, which are gonna keep them from getting sidetracked or anything like that. Because the last thing you want to be doing on a photo shoot, on a wedding, on a film production, is babysitting people.
Totally.
That's the last thing you want to do. So thank God I had another BTS photographer that I was like, you know what, I relate the job to you. The other one can do whatever it's please, but you're my right hand right now. I need you. So I fixed that one. So I agree with you on that. It's a big part of it. But let's circle back into the other photography that you do, because not wedding is not all you do. You mentioned underwater and everything. Tell me a little bit more of what are the other ones that you love, like that's mainly stand out for you.
So right now I'm concentrating in about 4 different types of photography. So I do weddings, engagements, elopements, things of that nature. I also do portraits. So I love doing lifestyle portraits for people that are entrepreneurs, up and coming business owners, capturing a scope of what they do on a daily basis, as well as portraits of them. And then I also do brand photography. So like a towel company or a jewelry brand or things of that nature. And then I sell my landscape prints as well.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
If you want a beautiful landscape photo, definitely go to her page. I'm gonna link everything so you can go and buy one. It's beautiful. You definitely should have it. But go on.
Thank
Apologies
you.
for
So
that.
yeah, those are my main avenues, and as I touched on earlier, I really love shooting outdoors. So of course with wedding days or certain things you're not always shooting outdoors, but
Yes.
I'm a sucker for a beautiful destination.
Absolutely. I mean, as you should.
So
You've
yeah.
experienced what, Hawaii, you're about to experience Bali. Like getting to go to all these places, of course, you're going to become perhaps a connoisseur of beautiful places because you experience that almost every month.
Yeah.
So you want that to continue happening.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. Okay, so out of all the photography and places you've been, what is the place that stands out to you and why?
I would have to say I went to Fiji after graduating and I stayed there for a few weeks. I was actually doing an internship. This was a long time ago, but I feel like when I'm in a place, I really try to soak it up because I don't know if I'll be back.
Yeah.
But that is somewhere I would really love to go back to. And then I love Kauai, Hawaii, and was just living there for a little bit over the summer, and that's a really special place to me. So it's really hard to pick a favorite. I tend to be drawn towards like warmer climates and tropical places, but I do appreciate the beauty of the mountains as well. So yeah, I would love to go back to Fiji at some point
Oh,
for
you will. I'm
sure.
sure of that. I'm
Yeah.
sure of that. So I do want to know, because this has happened to me 2 times, and it's just me, because I'm all over the place getting ready for filming and my productions, where it has happened to me with the SSDs or solid state hard drives,
Hmm.
where I packed everything and I have way too much gear. Like I carry the camera, all these
Hmm.
Pelican cases. So sometimes you just shove everything there, like in the Pelican case or the bag or here or there. And you're like, in your head, you're like, I think I packed it. I'm sure I packed it. Surely that you get to location, that SSD is not there. That SD is not there. What do you do? I mean, all I do is like, I come up with an excuse. I'm like, yeah, I forgot it, or it's not working, and I run to the nearest, closest store and I buy one. But how do you handle that? And has it happened to you? Because to me, it has happened 2 times, and it's been embarrassing. Let me tell you that. Has it happened to you?
I'm sure it's happened to me. I'm trying to think of a specific opportunity or not opportunity.
Like situation.
I'm trying to think of a specific situation, and I don't have one off the tip of my head, but absolutely there's been times where having a checklist and
Yeah.
really going over your gear, and again, this is where you have to educate clients and people. It's
Yes.
not just showing up and taking a picture. There's an hour or so. I did a photo shoot yesterday, and there was an hour or so of prep I had with checking the film, checking all the cameras, cleaning everything, dialing in, formatting all the memory cards. Then I'm at the shoot, and then obviously there's a lot of post-production that people don't always realize that goes on as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I tend to buy a lot of SD cards. For a while, I was buying them new almost every shoot just because I didn't
Yeah.
want to take chances,
Yes.
which is also a big investment that you have to make.
Absolutely. I mean, they're not cheap. They're like 150, 180,
Yeah,
more or
it
less.
depends on which one, but definitely. And so I definitely think I've made a Best Buy run or scramble getting somewhere for sure. I think when you're traveling to more remote places, it's harder, but yeah, it's been a journey for sure. And I think just double checking your bag and your work and what you're bringing is really the key to not forgetting
Oh, to me, it
anything.
has happened. Now, time to be educational. So, tell me, out of everything that you've done, after the mentorship and everything, how would you empower and encourage people to get out there and chase what they want,
I
get their
would
dreams?
Yeah, great question. I would definitely say that my success has boiled down to a few different factors that really anyone, whether they're in photography or not, can adapt and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully take on in their life. And I think one thing is gratitude, like having gratitude for wherever you are in your journey and waking up every day, realizing every day truly is a gift, is something that's helped me put things into perspective, especially with this world that we live in and seeing what everyone's doing all the time, just to be grateful for each day and what you have and the dreams that you have, and also belief in yourself. I think that was something that I was noticing through a lot of my mentorship calls with other photographers is, sometimes our mind can get the best of us and we can second guess decisions we've made or routes we should take in life. And there's no wrong path. It's whatever we choose to create. And I
Mm-hmm.
really do believe we are the creators and co-creators with God of our own reality. And so having that gratitude and that prayer for me personally, first thing in the morning, and then also the belief that really anything is possible has gotten me a long way and been
Has got you to
able,
where you are here
yeah, and
today.
has helped me achieve what I've achieved. And then just forward motion. So, whatever you're thinking about and dreaming about, don't mull over it for too long. Just start taking those steps in the
Just baby steps,
direction
yeah.
and see what happens. You don't need to look back so soon. Just keep that forward motion going. And also another thing that has really helped me out is adaptability. I've been able to adapt to a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
situations traveling with my business. It's evolved. When COVID hit, I had to completely
How was
stop
that for you?
brand work for a while and it's funny enough, I actually started doing more weddings in COVID, even though
Really?
people's weddings were getting postponed. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people especially after COVID was coming to an end, really wanted these celebrations with their family. So COVID, I think, had it's
A different
positives
impact?
and negatives with everyone, but I was able to kind of take a break and reevaluate and switch gears. So being adaptable and also having persistence and patience, really going after something for the long haul. I think a lot of entrepreneurs speak about this, but your time and your attention is really the one thing you have that you can control versus other things, and having that ability to focus in on something and not give up for an extended period of time has also really helped me in my career, where I was speaking to earlier, of just having my tunnel vision focus on becoming a professional destination photographer and really achieving
And
that.
how would you handle that hesitation? Because when you're doing these things of whatever you may be, an artist or photographer, videographer, you name it, there's always going to be that hesitation of, I want to do it, but there's something stopping me, or just the way you think or your mindset is stopping you or holding you back. How or what would you recommend people to do to get over that fear, that 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 block that they're having to really just get out there and move
And
forward
do
with
it.
it and
Yeah,
do it?
there's so many things people can do. I think you can journal out your thoughts and kind of get those doubts off on paper, and then realize like, okay, this is a passing thought. Or you can pray or meditate or do things of that nature, or really speak to friends that are life-giving. I think the people you surround yourself with really do dictate your future, and my dad said that saying to me growing up all the time of, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And really surrounding yourself with people that believe in you makes a huge impact. But also, when you're thinking about a business idea or wanting to try something, you don't need to tell everyone about it. Like, your God-given intuition will lead you in the right direction. And I think if you're able to kind of put distractions aside for a minute and comparison aside and other people's opinions aside and really tap into
What you're doing.
what you are desiring in life, you can create such magic from that place.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Being a little bit private, it's better because it allows you to focus. Because when you go out there and you share, even though that you're doing it, but you share it out there, you're putting that thought into people's mind. Oh, he or she is doing this or doing that. So, I like to keep things private because it allows me as a person to dive into it, focus, and just really do what I want to do because I don't have that problem of like, oh, I'm sharing this and now I have to really come forward and make it happen. So I like to keep things private because one, if things don't happen, then it's just on me. Nobody else know about. But at the same time, I this is just me and my mindset is that when you start sharing too much, some people may start hating and then they put that little vibe out in the universe and kind of trying to put those blocks at you. So it makes it a little bit harder, at least to my mindset. So I always like to be have my mindset free of stress of people wishing bad or hate on my stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Once I make it, but people have no reason really to know what I'm doing
Yes.
because I need my mind and my mindset to be open and free to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna make it happen. And if it doesn't, then you will fuck up. It's just another learning. So I love that you
Yeah.
share that.
Yeah.
So I know we're running a little bit long in time, but is there anything else that you would love to share, to tell people from your career? Because the main focus of this is to really encourage people out there to follow their dreams, just like you were doing. Because you're a great example to follow. People see you on Instagram, admire you. You've been in magazines. You've photographed for people like Heather, Mosa. Maybe I said it wrong.
Yeah.
Apologies if I did.
Okay.
But you're a great example. So how would you encourage? I mean, we already tapped into that, so cut that.
No, but I think mindset is so important. And as I age, the more important I realize it's becoming. And to your point, I didn't even really want to mention the book earlier because we do get, like, psychologically, it's proven you get a dopamine hit off of just sharing an idea with someone, and then people are less likely to take action. So I think just forward motion and really belief, like, I genuinely believe anything is possible in life.
It is.
And I heard this quote the other day where it's like anything but not everything. So you really just have to get specific. And I'll tell a quick story if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I was living on the East Coast, and really wanted to live on the West Coast, and got really specific about wanting to live in Laguna Beach, and would look online for fun all the time, and then saw a really great opportunity, everything aligned, and had to kind of make this life life-changing decision within 24 hours whether to
Wow.
rent this place in Laguna Beach
Or not.
And I had to do it on my own. I couldn't, call my mom or all these different
Or
people.
co-sign or anything like that. It was you on your own.
I
You
just
got
had to
24
make
hours.
I had to make the decision. And so that was a really empowering step. And also I got really specific. I'm using that example of exactly where I wanted to live. So I was able to achieve that dream, which might seem kind of trivial to some people, but it was a really big deal for me to come out here and move here and live in a town that I'd once dreamed about living. And I'd been splitting my time here a bit. But if you can get specific about your dream, also some people do a theory of working backwards. So if you want to make X amount or shoot for such and such person, let's say for photography, like working backwards, like who would I need to get in touch with? What ways would I need to do this? That's another way. I personally haven't done that as much. I think just the belief that's anything possible and the forward motion of action, and also being able to adjust like I touched on, and surrounding yourself with good people, and also the basics in life like good sleep, good health, all those things go a long way. And so I think just to encourage everybody just to be surrounded around people that fuel you, believe yourself that it's possible, and just take action on your dreams, because anyone can accomplish really anything they put their heart and mind behind.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you for coming today. Your stories, everything that you've gone through has been not only inspiring, but it's been heartwarming to not only hear your stories, but have you here sharing about it and being so open about it. It means a lot. So thank you so much for coming out here today. Hopefully we can have you back here in the near future to hear about your book, to hear about all the crazy stories you may encounter in crazy weddings and more amazing underwater photography. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, G. This was such a blessing, truly. I'm so grateful. I love interviews. I love hearing people's stories. So it was amazing to hear some of yours, and thank you for letting me share a piece of mine.
Absolutely. Love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for watching.